I'm sorry, Haman. Haman was scheduled to come in and talk to the king about killing Mordecai. He made these gallows at the advisement of his wife. Uh-oh. At the advisement of his wife. Build the gallows, hang Mordecai, and your life would be better for it. Well, the morning he was coming to talk to the king about hanging Mordecai, he knew the king would allow him to hang Mordecai. So he had planned, at the advice of his wife and others, to go in and talk to the king. Well, so he was scheduled that morning to go and talk to the king. But let's look at what happened the night before he went in and talked to the king. How many of you know God was moving for his people? Let me show you something. Chapter 6, let me go back up to verse 1 for a second. On that night, could not the king sleep? The night before Haman was to come and get permission to hang Mordecai, the night before that, the king couldn't sleep. And he commanded to bring the book of the records of the Chronicles, and they were read before the king. Now, whose thinking do you think this was? Whose idea do you think it was? Who moved upon the heart of the king to all of a sudden to ask them to bring the book of the Chronicles? Let me look at the past. Let me look at the history. That's what the Chronicles are. Let me read what has happened in the past. Whose idea do you think that was, sisters and brothers? Well, I tell you, God is working while you sleeping. Watch this. So they were read before the king, and it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hand on King Ahasuerus. It was found written where Mordecai had told that these two men were plotting to kill the king. He found that part. Now, sister and brother, let me tell you something. When the Bible says, in all thy ways acknowledge him and he shall direct our path, who you think is directing the path of the king right now? Man, sister, listen, when God said it isn't in man to order his own steps, I know what he's talking. Man, we don't know. Look at Haman. He was making some bad moves, didn't know it. We've learned that it isn't in us to order our own steps. Man, we need help knowing which way to go, what we should do. Man, I don't have no confidence in myself that I'm going to just make the right move. And I see why the counsel of the Lord is, in all thy ways acknowledge him. In everything you want to do, everything you're planning to do, everything you desire to do, acknowledge him. Get permission. Why? Because the steps of the righteous are ordered by God. So guess what? So it was written that Mordecai had saved the king by warning him of this plot to take his life. Mm-hmm. And look at verse 3. And the king said, what honor and dignity has been done to Mordecai for this? Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, there is nothing done for him. Mm-hmm. See, sister, but let me tell you something. Now this is key. You'll be walking around mad, Talking about unappreciative. I saved his life, and he hadn't even come out to say thank you. See, I can't see. That king there messed up, not realizing that God is in control. God sets the time. What if he had blessed him back then? When he needed God the most, guess what? He would have already gotten his reward. But sisters and brothers, this is why as Christians, man, we got to understand that God is in control. God sees the future. God knows when and how to maneuver on our behalf. We got to remember that all things work together. He should have said, listen, and I know he wasn't like this. Mordecai wasn't going. I'm trying to show you how we would have acted. Man, I say that brother Nick, and he hadn't even come out to tell me thank you. He hadn't done nothing for me, no kind of reward, no nothing, and I saved his life. That's where some of us would be. But boy, I bless God. I bless God. See, all things work together for good. We got to trust that. We have to have faith in that. All things work together for good for those that love the Lord, those that are what? Called according to what? His purpose. You know why nothing was done when he did it? Because it was preserved, the reward for a later time when he would need it the most. God didn't forget what Mordecai had done. And God did that purposely to delay the blessing. God did that on purpose. So some time later, they say, well, had nothing been done for Mordecai? You mean that man saved my life and nothing was done for him? Oh my. Sister and brother, trust me when I tell you, God allowed that oversight. Because if the king had known that, he would have done something then. But God allowed that oversight because God wanted to remind him at a later date when it would be more beneficial. So watch this. Nothing's been done. Look at verse 4. And the king said, who is in the court? Who's out there in the court, y'all? Now Haman was coming to the outward court of the king's house to speak unto the king to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him. So the king is looking for somebody. Who's that in the court? They say Haman is out there. Now watch this. Haman was out there for what purpose? He wanted to come in and talk to the king about killing Mordecai on those gallows that he had built. And the king's servant said unto him, behold, Haman standeth in the court. And the king said, let him come in. Let Haman come on in. So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, what shall be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor? Did y'all get that? The king asked Haman, what shall be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor? Well, Haman got to thinking, wait a minute. The king want to honor somebody? And what shall be done for that person? Oh, watch this. Let me show you what was on Haman's mind before he tell you what should be done for the man that the king delighted to honor. Let me show you what was on his mind. Now Haman thought in his heart. To whom would the king delight to honor more than, listen, to myself? Who else would the king want to honor other than me? Who else? Nobody has come to the banquet but me and the king. Who else would the king like to honor but me? That's the way he was thinking. So y'all watch this. So if you think is whatever honor you speak is going to be done to you, oh, you watch what follows. You know you're going to give yourself the hook up, or you're going to start naming. Let's see where he went, thinking it was going to be him that the king wanted to honor. Let's see what his thoughts were. Look at verse 7. And Haman answered the king, for the man whom the king delight to honor, let me see. Somebody that you want to honor, king. Oh, let me see. I tell you what, somebody you really want to honor. Look at verse 8. Let the royal apparel be brought, which the king used to wear. And the horse that the king rideth upon, not used to ride, let him put on the king's garments, the royal garments that the king used to wear, and then let him be paraded. Listen, then the horse that the king rideth upon, let him ride that horse, the king's horse. See, everybody know that's the king's horse, how awesome that horse is. So let him put on the royal clothes, then the king's horse, watch this, and the crown royal which is set upon his head. Let him wear the crown, king. Yeah. Somebody you really want to honor, let him put on the king's clothes, the king's horse, and then put the crown upon his head. Watch this. Then this is what I want you to do. Let this apparel and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, one of the top dogs. Let this be delivered to him. Watch this. Top prince, that they may array the man with them, whom the king delighted to honor, and bring him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaim before him, thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delighted to honor. Now I want you to get this. And proclaim. In other words, you run before the man on the horse that the king is honoring. And you say, thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delight to honor. Now watch this, y'all. Here is the shocker. Then the king said to Haman, make haste and take the apparel and the horse, as thou hast said, and do even so to Mordecai the Jew that sitteth at the king's gate. Let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken. Let me tell y'all something. The most shocking thing to me, remember that night when the king couldn't sleep? God was getting ready to exalt somebody that had a death sentence. God was getting ready to exalt somebody that was getting ready to die. Remember, Haman had the law go out through all the land. We're going to kill all the Jews at a certain day this year. All the Jews. Everybody, get ready, get ready, get ready. We're going to kill all the Jews. They had a death sentence, saints. But how many of you know, if God be for you, Haman, all of the kingdom, listen, wouldn't prosper, wouldn't prevail against you. If God be for you, y'all watch this. I'm going to tell y'all the thing that blew my mind about this. And I'm going to see if y'all can, I'm not going to tell you what it was yet. But I want to see if y'all, anything in this story that's shocking to you. Anything in this story that blows your mind. Now watch this. He said, do for Mordecai everything that you just said and don't leave nothing out. Watch this. Look at verse 11. Then took Haman the apparel and the horse and arrayed Mordecai and brought him on horseback through the city. Now, wait a minute. Listen to this. Then took Haman the apparel and the horse and arrayed Mordecai and brought him on horseback through the street of the city and proclaimed before him, thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor. Now, then verse 12, and Mordecai came again to the king's gate. After Haman had taken him around the city, screaming, this is what is done to the man that the king delights to honor. This is what is done to the man that the king delights to honor. When he got through running through the city, screaming at the people, everybody looking at him, crowds coming outside, filling up the balconies, everybody looking as they parade through the street. People stop shopping, a buggy stop, everybody stop and listen to what Haman is saying concerning Mordecai. Let me tell y'all something. And Mordecai came again to his gate. In other words, Haman dropped him off after all that he had done. But Haman hasted to his house, mourning, crying, and having his head covered. Let me tell you something. This was the most humiliating thing imaginable for Haman. He's crying like a baby that he had to do this. Now, I'm going to ask y'all, what's the most remarkable thing about this? I'm going to see if y'all can just get this, because I'm going to tell you, there is something here that's hard to imagine in this day and time. What was it?
What I see.
What you see?
Is that he thought so much of himself.
Because you're going to sound like Gershom. You know, Gershom always say, what you see.
He thought so much of himself. That he laid the red carpet and put it all out there. I mean, the whole 9 yards for himself. He
thought a lot of himself.
He thought a lot of himself.
And all this royal treatment he thought was going to be done to him. Okay, go ahead.
In actuality, he had to render those services to the person that he had been trying to build this case against. And had put out there to try to take not only his life, but his people.
So what's shocking about that? Because, you know, it's natural for a man to think highly of himself.
Yeah.
So what I'm looking for is the most shocking thing about this. See, because that's normal for a person to be self-exalted.
It is.
Give me the most remarkable, the most shocking part of what we just read. I'm going to tell you what it is.
That he was going to have to render that to the man that he had issues with.
That he was going to have to render that?
Oh, yeah, that was a must.
Yeah, but that's not the most shocking part.
I don't know what's shocking. That would have been shocking enough for me.
Now, I'm going to tell you what, come on. I need your response. I need to see if you really see this. I need to see if you get this. I need to hear from you. What's the most remarkable thing, the most shocking thing about what just happened?
You have one comment. It says that Mordecai stayed in the game and received his blessing.
You know what? That's not really the most shocking that Mordecai stayed there. You expect a man of God to die for what he believed.
Yeah.
You expect a man of God. We've seen that. Whether Daniel being thrown into the lion's den, willing to die, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Paul, the apostles, willing to die. You expect that from a genuine Christian. That's not shocking to me for a genuine Christian.
What's shocking?
So give me some more answers. All those are good, but I'm really looking. I want you all to look at that and tell me what's the most shocking. Come on, I'm going to give you a minute because I need your response on this one. Come on, Brian, what's the most shocking? Well, you've already gone.
Yeah, I have.
Come on, Gershom. I know you. Come on, boy. If Elder Tracy was listening, I believe Elder would get something.
Elder's on.
Elder usually pretty good at getting stuff like that, and you can't give him a riddle. He'll give you the answer. His mind's sharp like that. But watch this. Come on, Elder Verdine. I know you. Come on. Tell me the most shocking part of this. Y'all, I'm going to read from verse 11 again. And by the time I get down, I'm going to see if you're able to give me that answer. Because this, I'm going to tell you what was really shocking. Not really, but the most shocking of this whole part. Verse 11 said, Then took Haman the apparel and the horse and arrayed Mordecai and brought him on horseback through the street of the city and proclaimed before him, Thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delighted to honor. And Mordecai came again to the king's gate. But Haman hasted to his house, mourning and having his head covered. And Haman told Jeshua, his wife, and all his friends everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise men and Jeresh, his wife, unto him, If Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews, before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but shall surely fall before him. They said, brother, if what you just said is true, you had to parade him and do this. Mm-hmm. If that's true, you can't prevail against that man. It's not going to end up good for you, Haman. Yeah. Okay, let me get the comments. Let me see if you're thinking right. Go ahead.
The first one says, but all that plotting was turned on the one he was plotting against. And the second comment says, the ditch you dig, he dug, he fell into it. It was for him. The third one says, walking around the city, praising Mordecai after everything he was trying to do to go against him.
Let me tell you something. That last one, that was the most remarkable. That last comment you just made, who made that comment?
Wait a minute. Now that's what I said.
No, not that. No, let me show you the difference. No, let me show you the difference.
That he now has.
You said that he was elevated, exalted himself.
I said he thought a whole lot about
of himself.
I say, and the things that he thought about himself, he then had to turn around.
Yeah, that's not it.
Okay.
The
part. It was Brother Tim.
But Tim, you own it, brother. Let me tell y'all something. The most remarkable thing about that to me is that, listen, he did something that he would not and couldn't, listen, that he wouldn't have done. He did something that he didn't want to do. He did something that he despised doing. He did something that he would hate to do. You know what? Let me tell you something. When the king said this, do you know what it took for this man to bow to carry out what the king's requested? What the king's request was? Let me tell you something. See, Brad, if you despise somebody that much, that you wanted to kill, listen, how many people you know could bring themselves to do? Somebody would say, no, I'm not doing that. No. No matter what you say, there are some folk that wouldn't have done it. The point is, why is this significant? Sisters and brothers, let me tell you what's so remarkable about that. As wicked as Haman was, y'all, understanding that you have to respect and do whatever the king commands you to do, whether you want to or not. That man, he didn't want to do it, but he did it because he was commanded to do it, and he respected the king. He respected the king enough to whatever he commanded him to do, he did it, even against his will. Now, I'm going to tell y'all something. Boy, you imagine, just imagine in your mind somebody that, this is before you saved. You can't have this mindset now being saved. But imagine somebody that you know hates you, show you no respect. Boy, let me tell you something. That's against you and you know it. And your mama said, go out there and hug that and kiss him. Some of y'all would take a beating before you did that. Would take a whooping before you, no, mama, I ain't doing that. No, you just got to whoop me. But I want you to understand something. Sisters and brothers, this generation that we live in now does not compare. Let me tell you something. You didn't disrespect, you didn't dishonor the king. You showed total respect for the king. This is why I can't understand this generation. We have a king too. His name is Jesus. And I know there are some things you don't want to do. Some of us don't want to love our neighbors. Some of us don't want to love our enemies. Some of us don't want to overcome evil with good. But yet, because our king commanded it, we would do things we really don't want to do. It's no different than Jesus, our Lord, when the Lord was faced with death for the first time in his life. You know the story. when Jesus asked the Father, the King, he asked him, is there any other way we can do this? And you know, sooner or later, Jesus came to and realized that and said, no, that's the way I would have it. That's the way I would like. He said, not my will. Forget about what I want. And your will be done. And he laid it down because it was about giving in to the will of the Father. Whatever the king wanted. Y'all, that makes it inexcusable for us. Here's a wicked man bowing, surrendering, submitting to the king, and he did something that was absolutely detestable to him. He did something that was unreal, unimaginable for him. He made himself do it. You've been talking about this man. You've been talking and plotting to kill this man. And now you bring yourself to parade him around the city. You running around in front of him talking about this is the man that the king delights to honor. This is the man. You being humiliated. But yet you did it. He did it. He humbled himself to do it. What he despised doing. That's a wicked man. Sisters and brothers, all I'm trying to say is this. That's what was so, unimaginable about that. Brother, you think you could have made yourself do that?
I do it now.
Huh?
I do it now. A lot of things I don't want to do, but because I know that's what the Father required of us to do, you just do it. But it didn't come easy, because I used to have a hard time dealing with folk that mistreat me for no reason.
Yeah.
And not to mention talking about loving them still, but I can genuinely say, I'm able to love in spite of, and I don't care what your response is, whether you speak, whether you hug back, or you show love, you just stand there, whatever. Let me give you my love, and that's what the Father said I'm supposed to do. And I genuinely love you. But that doesn't come easy because,
See, when you say stuff like that, I perceive you've spent some time with Jesus. Because that's the only place you get that. But I want you to understand, but this wicked man did something that was humiliating, that he was that he despised doing. Sister and brother, if a wicked man can bring himself to submitting to a worldly king, doing something that he despised, that shows you how different the world is today.
Right.
That shows you how man has changed from being the substantive, the quality, the man that had a certain level of integrity. Sisters and brothers, that was different. That's what makes it inexcusable for any of us when it comes to doing whatever God asks us to do,
right.
Whatever Jesus' will is for us to do. It's inexcusable for us to say no to anything that God asks of us. Boy, you talking about people raised up in the judgment and show you yourself versus what they did, what they showed you, the examples that God allowed them to set forth for us. There's a wicked man obeying the king, doing something that he didn't want to do. I don't care if you like something God said or not. You do it because the king said it. You do it because Jesus asks you to. I'm not going to kid you, Brent. That really, boy, I could imagine what that took for him to do that. And I don't know how many people could have done that, y'all. I'm just telling you the truth. That shame that I could see some folk giving up their seat that, say, King, I just can't do that one. I'm sorry. You know what? If you want to give somebody else my position, then, I understand. But I just can't. Anybody else in the kingdom, I do that for. Anybody else you want to honor like that, I do it. But I just can't do that for Mordecai. I just can't. I've told my wife about, and I talked to all my advisors about him, that he got to die. They all agreed that man got to die. And what it looked like me parading him around. And I built a gallows for him in my house. What that looked like? Me taking him around. He won't bother me. So I just can't do that one. Just like the rich young ruler. When the Lord said, sell all that you have and give to the poor, the man just was up front, said, I can do a lot of things. I won't kill, I won't steal, I won't commit adultery. And I've been doing all that for a long time anyway. I got practice keeping God's commandments. He said, but when you ask me to do that now, you're really going too far. Now, I do a lot of other things, but don't ask me to do that, Lord. And I think that's where some people are. They'll give up certain things, but what means the most to them, they want to hold on to. In spite of what Jesus says. Jesus says, sell it all, give to the poor. And you know the story, the man walked away sorrowful, man. He said, I just can't do that. People walk away from the churches every day because God asked them to leave that man alone and wait on me, and they're just not willing to do it. God says, stop, don't work on God's Sabbath. Don't do that. And some people say, well, I'm making too much money to turn this down. I ain't never made this kind of money. But see, sisters and brothers, this is when you begin to see when the real you is exposed. When you can't and you won't, I can't say can't because no such thing as can't. When you won't, when you refuse to submit and do what God called you to do, that's a problem. That lets you know you're in trouble. Again, all this stuff will see you in the judgment. Haman didn't want to do it. This was one of the hardest things in the world to do, but yet he did it because a worldly king commanded him to. See, sometimes you got to do things you don't want to do. And you got to bring yourself to that. Haman did. And you say you more righteous than he. Are you? Just something to think about. Boy, and I'm going to read that verse 13 again. Haman told Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends, everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise men and Zeresh his wife unto him, if Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews, before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but shall surely fall before him. And while they were yet talking with him, came the king's chamberlains and hasted to bring Haman unto the banquet that Esther had prepared. Now, I don't know about y'all, boy, when I had to do that, when I just talked to my family, my advisors, man, are you really going to that banquet now? They came to get him. Come on. The king want to see you. Go ahead.
So there's a question or comment. So are you saying that there was a change in Haman's heart? He had to do as the king requested. If not, he could have been in trouble with the king. He still had a wicked heart.
Yeah, he still had a wicked heart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this wasn't nothing about, I said, a wicked man made himself do whatever the king commanded to be done. His heart wasn't right. He was a wicked man. What I'm trying to say is this.
The children of God.
How is it that a wicked man can do something that he does not want to do because the king commanded, and we call ourselves the seed of God, the children of God, and we can't do what God commanded us to do?
That's true.
Haman wasn't right.
Just got it.
But I'm going to tell y'all something, man. This is why it can't be about us. I see why God said we got to be born again. Because this first birth, it does what the flesh want to do. It satisfies the flesh. The second birth does what the king wants done. The second birth. This is why anybody that's not born again, there's no heaven for you. There is no kingdom. Yeah, you go to church, but ain't no heaven for you because you have not truly been born again. When you've been born again, it's all about what the Spirit of God wants you to do. Not how you feel, not what you want to do. It's about what God would have you do. See, that's the difference. Y'all, we got to do better. Man, you know what? We just need to say, okay, Lord, whatever your will is, teach me how to do your will. Teach me how to live right. Teach me how to serve you right with a pure heart. Forgive me for my iniquities. Forgive me for all my trespasses. Help me to do what's right. Put me on the right path so you can use me according to your divine plan. Oh, God, help us. Y'all, we're not. Sisters and brothers, I'm going to just tell y'all, we're not what we want to be or where we should be yet. We got a ways to go, and we got to get there. Time is running out. Watch this. Did y'all get that? The king chamberlains came and got Haman and hasted to bring him to the banquet that was prepared. So now watch this. First of all, Haman already got a sad spirit because he thought he was the man that the king wanted to honor. He just thought that, right? Wrong. He was dead wrong. He wasn't the one. God had that night showed him that Mordecai should be honored. That's who God wanted to honor. And he thought it was him. Sisters and brothers, don't think too much of yourself. Don't think too much of yourself. Have a humble opinion of you. Trust me when I tell you that you're going to come out a lot better. Esteem everybody else above you, he wouldn't have been in that position. If he had esteemed everybody else above him, but he was on top, don't nobody, listen, he don't want to praise or honor nobody more than me. Got him in a lot of trouble, y'all. Watch this. Okay. So imagine what his heart is like going into this banquet. He just got humiliated. He just left home and they told him, you in trouble. If you just had to take Mordecai around the city and you, oh, this don't look good for you, my friend. I could imagine how his wife is feeling now. She the one told him to hang no gallows. Should have kept her mouth closed. Watch this. So the king and Haman came to the banquet with Esther the queen. So the king and Haman came to the banquet with Esther the queen. And the king said again unto Esther, on the second day at the banquet of wine, what is thy petition, Queen Esther? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? And it shall be performed even to the half of the kingdom. Again, the king said, baby, what you want? Whatever you want, I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to grant your request. Whatever you want. And my line is, I'm going to give you all the way up to half of my kingdom. That's what I'm going to do for you. That's what you want. Just say a word. Then Esther the queen answered and said, if I have found favor in thy sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request. Now, let me tell you something. Now, the king is thrown off. Now, this has messed the king up. What? Your life, sister, your life and the life of your people, what are you talking about? Why should you be asking for your life and the life of your, what's going on? Let me tell y'all something. That messed the king up because, see, all that stuff Haman had done, put into effect, the king didn't know the depth of it. The king didn't know what all was at stake and who was involved with this thing. He had no clue. Remember, he don't even know Esther's a Jew. He didn't know she was in trouble. He didn't know, y'all listen to this. She said, let my people life be given at my request. I request to save my life and I request to save my people life. That's what I want, King. I don't want half the kingdom. I just want our lives to be saved. Boy, that messed the king up. Watch this. Listen to what she says. For we are sold, I and my people, to be destroyed. King, there's a hit out on us. We are sold to be destroyed. They're going to kill us. Watch this. We are sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be slain, and to perish. But if we had been sold for bondmen and bondwoman, I had held my tongue, although the enemy could not countervail the king's damage. Let me tell you something. In other words, King, I wouldn't even be pleading if they were just going to take us captive and have us as prisoners. I wouldn't even be asking for this. But they talking about killing us. That's the only reason I'm asking you to save our lives. Watch this. Watch this. You see that part at the bottom of verse 4 when it says, I had held my tongue, although the enemy could not countervail the king's damage. Let me read that in the Amplified really quick. Let me just see how I read. For we are sold, I and my people to be destroyed, slain, and whipped out of existence. But if we had been sold for bondmen and bondwomen, I would have held my tongue. For our affliction is not to be compared with the damage this would do to the king. Watch this. Let me go back. Look at verse 5. Then the king Ahasuerus answered and said unto Esther the queen, who is he? Who is he? Who is this enemy that's trying to kill you and your people? And where is he that doeth presume in his heart to do so? I want to see the man that's trying to kill you. You my wife. You my daughter. Ain't a woman in this kingdom like who want to kill you? I want to see the man. Esther, who is he? Oh my God. Now I'm going to tell y'all something. Imagine Haman sitting across that table now. Imagine what's on his mind. Oh my God, you're witnessing this. His world is just coming, listen, y'all, crashing down. I want you to imagine how you talk about Belshazzar, joint start shaking. Imagine what's going on with Haman right now. I don't believe his clothes are dry. Boy, who is he? Listen to verse 6. And Esther said, the adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman. Then Haman was afraid before the king and the queen. Afraid? I think that's an understatement. I believe it should have read was terrified. You just get exposed before the king and the queen. Listen, he want to know who is this person that's trying to kill my baby, the love of my life. Who is this? Then want to kill our people. Who is this wicked person? It's that red fella right here, Haman. That's who it is, honey. Watch this, y'all. The king was so infuriated. Let me tell you something. The king was so messed up. The king was so angry. Look at verse 7. And the king, arising from the banquet of wine in his wrath, went into the palace garden. The king went out, y'all. He was upset. He went out. He leaves the palace garden. Goes outside, angry, to cool down and to consider, to contemplate what his next step would be. This man tried to kill my wife. My wife? Watch this. So he went out into the garden. And when he went out, y'all, and Haman stood up to make requests for his life to Esther the queen. For he saw that there was evil determined against him by the king. So now he's pleading for his life. Begging Esther, oh Esther, please save me. Please, Esther, save me. Don't let him kill me, please. Begging for his life. How did he get there? Mistreating God's people.
Yeah.
Plotting against God's people. And sisters and brothers, y'all got to remember, God already told us, listen, about setting traps for people.
Yeah.
Sister, y'all, and that is the absolute truth. We just read that in Proverbs, how setting traps for people, you better be careful, because that same trap you set for others, you're going to end up in yourself.
Yeah.
That's the word. That's why, man, you don't do evil for evil. You don't plot against people. Let me tell you something. You would be the slowest person to know what God said and still try to get even with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You let people make it and let God deal with them.
Amen.
That's if you have any kind of sense, any kind of intelligence, any kind of wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
Because you plotting, trying to get somebody, that thing turn around on you, and trust me, God know how to get you. So watch this. So the king out in the garden, Haman is pleading with Esther for his life. Watch verse 8. Then the king returned out of the palace garden unto the place of the banquet wine. He comes back in, and watch this. And Haman was fallen upon the bed whereon Esther was. Wait a minute. He fell on her bed. Now, I don't know if he tripped and fell on the bed, or I don't know if he fell on the bed begging. Nevertheless, he fell on the queen's bed. Oh, sisters and brothers, some of y'all still don't get it. You gonna fall on the queen's bed? You know what? Now, could it look like, oh, he trying to get with the queen while the king's away? Is he trying to lay with Esther while the king's away? Some of you say, oh, no, that couldn't be on his mind. I'm not talking about what's on his mind. I'm talking about what it looks like. Let me show y'all something. Boy, God ain't the one to play with. When he fell on that bed, why did the king walk in right when he fell on her bed? Watch this. Then said the king, will he force the queen also before me in the house? Oh, not getting a hotel room, not doing this, not over in his house, not somewhere else. Will he force the queen in my house? See, I'm gonna tell you something. Ooh, sister and brother, let me tell you something. That's why even God tell us, don't judge according to appearance, but use righteous judgment in everything. See, and don't let your good be evil spoken of too. Those are some of the things that we learn as Christians. So God knew what that would look like to the king. Why? Let me tell you something. When God has it out for you, God know how to watch over you for evil instead of for good. See, when your ways please God, he watch over you for good. That don't mean things won't happen, but whatever happened, he got it. And you'll be all right. But when God watch over you for evil, oh, sisters and brothers, you rather go somewhere and, like Elder Tracy say, and pick a lily. If God ain't for you, you are in, like the kid used to say, you in trouble. Let me tell you something. Man, I'm learning with time and age, the only thing that matters is where I stand with my Lord. That is the only thing in life that matters. How does God see me? Is God pleased with my ways? That's what. Sister and brother, let me tell you something.